one night we're up late working on the movie, and at a certain point everybody had left, and it was just me and him. And I get the vibe he's a very paranoid guy, rightfully so, and he's holed up in his penthouse up there, and he doesn't have many friends or anything. But it was getting late, and at one point I go like, "All right, I'm gonna go to bed," and he fires back with, "You ever seen $1,000,000?" He brings me into his like little spare bedroom, but he had these shoe boxes like lined up to the ceiling, and he takes one, and he opens it, and he pulls out a stack of cash, like wrist to elbow kind of, and he's like, "Pretty crazy, huh?" And we're just standing there like it's like 2 a.m, and we're two grown adults in a bedroom like nodding at $1,000,000.
Title for the episode, by the way, have you ever seen $1,000,000?
It's Johnny Late Night! And now here's your host, Johnny Rogers! Welcome back, everyone, to the Johnny Rogers Show. We got a big guest for episode number 60. My guest is an artist, writer, heartthrob, and comedian with over 1 billion total online video views through a multitude of projects. He's written for outlets such as Playboy, Vice, National Lampoon, Screenrant, CBS Sports, and Thrillist, and his work has been profiled by TMZ, Buzzfeed, The Tonight Show, the BBC, and Huffington Post, just to name a few. He also was a founding member of the YouTube series Epic Mealtime, creator and host of the digital series High with Ty, a mayoral candidate for the city of Montreal in 2017, and has headlined a theater show for Montreal's Just for Laughs festival. Hailing from Montreal himself, he is a multidisciplinary artist who paints, performs, and produces a bevy of content. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Dr. Tyler Lemco.
Thanks for having me.
This is the Johnny Rogers Show, where I basically like have on people that I respect, and I want to show like a spotlight to the crowd that I've been lucky enough to like gather around myself, the small 50 of us I think there is usually. But to like kind of expose people in Canada really that I meet to like new audiences, because something I notice about Americans is they're very good at like cross promoting. Like everybody will have each other on their things, and like that's kind of how they grow their audiences. So that was kind of the model, if you will, for this one.
Cool. I love that. I've actually been thinking recently about how to like spotlight people in a like I don't know exactly how. I was thinking of doing like a weekly something on Instagram, like someone who I know that's doing something cool. But then I find that comes off always as like, look at what they're doing versus, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. You don't wanna applaud others' work?
Yeah, I guess I do.
You're like, now that I think about it.
Or I was thinking of
I know what you mean now.
Like some sort of like award or like certificate that I send to somebody once a month.
That'd be great. You just have like, it's you're setting goals for them. Like they don't even.
Yeah, and I only tell them when they've accomplished it.
Congratulations, you've liked 500 of my posts. You like send them a certificate in the mail.
Yeah, a little statue.
That'd be great. Yeah, you send them a little like an actual like Oscar type award.
Yeah.
You're like, man, this bit is getting expensive.
Yeah. That's the thing though, you got to invest.
Yeah, I guess that'd be, I mean, write it off on your taxes, right? Like spend $5,000 a year on awards.
My award budget is astronomical.
It's crazy. Promotion is like $20.
I bought these little like gold plaques that you put on, you like could like commemorate a bench or something to somebody.
Yeah.
So I just bought my own, and I like put them on a few benches around where I live.
No.
And I remember my mom saw it I posted it on Instagram. My mom saw it and she was like, "What did you spend on those plaques?" And I was like, "I don't know, like $40." And she was like, "For what purpose?" And I was like, "The bit."
You're like, literally just for the lulz.
Yeah.
That's all I did it for.
What else am I going to spend it on?
But just to like kind of fill the audience in on who you are, I met you in Montreal and through our mutual friend Eleven, who is also a former guest on the show as well. And he told me to ask you about a crazy story involving like a music producer, or like, no, it was a guy that was running like a studio. Insane story, but we can get to that. We can get to that later if we want to. If you're allowed to. I don't know how much you're allowed to say on the air, but When did you start in comedy? And has that always been your primary, like, passion or drive in life?
Yeah, I would say I got into comedy in general as like a concept, probably like uh 2010-ish. Just producing like dumb videos and sketches and stuff. And I was in school to be a writer, but I was more so like I wanted to be a sports writer, and then comedy sort of just took precedence over that eventually.
Sounds like
Um,
Ray Romano.
I'm like exactly like Ray Romano.
Yeah,
Everyone always says that.
yeah.
Yeah, I only got into stand-up though, maybe like a few months before the pandemic hit, and I've never really stand-up's never, it's always been like something I wanted to add to the Swiss Army knife, but we met at a stand-up show, and that's never really been like my thing. That's just like a fun addition to the comedy repertoire.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm much more of a writer than anything.
I love that because everyone, like, you just showed me also like another example of this belief that I've kind of had for a while, where it's like stand-up comedy, like doing the act of stand-up comedy, it doesn't necessarily mean that like I'm gonna only go hard at this one thing. Like for a lot of people, stand-up comedy is just like a skill building activity, really, Like it's a chance to speak unfiltered in front of a bunch of random people who are there to laugh, and you can get that feedback directly and like kind of work up that confidence of being able to do something like that carries over into every other aspect of your life.
For sure. And I also, stand-up's a little scary to me, to be honest. Not in the like that I'm scared to get up and talk in front of people, in the sense that after a decade of being more of an online content person, and like you post something and you see how it performs, and like sometimes 4 years after you posted something can all of a sudden get a bunch of views or nothing at all, versus when you get up on a stage and you say something and then an audience laughs at it, that immediate call and response and that like feedback, it's so addicting. And it's so I find the performance of doing stand-up is one of my favorite things I've ever done. I just personally don't see, especially in this city, I guess, like where you go,
Montreal, you're saying?
yeah, like where's the
Yeah.
route to like doing anything. I have a real hard time with that.
Well, that could be also because you said you've only started before the pandemic, right? So I had the same kind of mindset about it, if you will. And obviously, like even what I'm saying right now, take it with a grain of salt, because like there are things that people told me to do when I started, and now they're completely wrong. Like I remember somebody was like, don't post any of your jokes online. Like you don't want to post anything on YouTube because you'll burn the material, and people will be yelling out like, I've seen that before. And I believe them because it kind of made sense, right? You're like, yeah, I guess. Like I don't want anyone saying they've seen it before. But like there's 8 billion people. Somebody's not heard the joke before.
For sure.
And then you see the Andrew Schultz method of just like he was just posting crowd work clips and like clip after clip after clip. He posted every single day, which he modeled after Russ, who was posting a new song every single day, which kind of blew him up. That blew them both up. And then now it's like the thing that you have to do is everyone's posting constantly.
For sure. And those stand-ups who say like don't post your stuff, you'll burn it, aren't wrong, because like for the whole lineage of stand-up's existence, that is true. You don't give away your material free. But we live in an era where like what's more valuable to you? Do that joke in front of a room of, I don't know, 20 to 50 people, or do that joke on a platform where who knows if 1.5 million people end up seeing it.
Yeah. And now see, to get back to what I was going to say before that was kind of just the example to take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But the way that I see stand-up now is like there are so many different options of things that you can do with it, right? Like if you have this online audience that's built and they love like your sketches and whatever, that's technically people that will come out to see you. The stand-up is like the show that you'll give them to get the money, right? Like, and the point of doing repeated sets is to kind of fasten down that like hour of material that you're going to charge people like hopefully $50 a seat to come and see, right? And it's like working that repeatedly and figuring out like, how do I get to this joke faster? Or but again, even that, it comes down to like the individual's obsession with that, because like you got to be crazy obsessed with stand-up to sit down after your set and listen to every single word and type it out and start looking at where the kinks need to be fixed and what words need to be taken out or added. You got to be like really obsessed with it at that point. But once you have that first hour, you can do anything, man. You could use that audience to book a tour where you know you're going to sell seats. You could just do online stuff and post like on that hour clip on YouTube and get like ad revenue from that. Use it as like a business card for other opportunities. Like now I see Steve Harvey is hosting Family Feud. Well, he started as a stand-up comedian, and then he now is a multi-million-dollar.
I think he's the greatest stand-up host of all time.
The greatest. Wow, what was it called? Wild Comedy. What was his tour name? There was a tour that he was on with, I think, Bernie Mac.
Original Kings?
Maybe it was Original Kings of Comedy.
Well, he was the host of Original Kings with Bernie, Cedric, and DL.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Oh, he's so good in that. He has a stadium. He's talking to them like it's an open mic at a bar.
And that comes though from doing the open mic at the bar a billion times, right?
That's what I find so fascinating with. I love the element of stand-up where it's like you're essentially a sculptor and you're chiseling this like masterpiece and you're making this thing and you're adding to it and taking parts away and you're really like molding it to be as best as it possibly can be. There's that as a writer, but then on the flip side, there's getting good at doing stand-up, which is like crowd work and being quick on your toes and talking to people and just like having stage presence. That's a whole separate thing that's bonkers to me.
And that part of stand-up, I don't think you can teach. I think that has to come just naturally from like whatever makes you the most confident on stage. Like I found for a little while, like it's so stupid, but like just resting my left hand on my stomach, such a weird position, but just walking around with my left hand on my like little gut, I just felt comfortable. Like it made me feel more comfortable on stage because I'm always thinking like, do I need to be doing something with this hand? Well, like I'll use it to point for certain things, but there's always that like Will Ferrell moment. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. He's just holding them up.
For sure.
I know comics too. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I always like to go up with a little bit of disdain for the audience, even though I portray like a very friendly, nice person, but I need to have like a little bit of like, fuck these people.
Yeah.
In order to not feel nervous. And then I also like to start with like as much silence as I comfortably can before I do the first joke is a good, like, it helps me feel less nervous.
Apparently Dice would do that. He would come out and he wouldn't say anything until he heard someone laughing.
That's cool.
He would just kind of just stand there and like make faces and look at them and hold the mic. He hasn't even spoken a word yet. And somebody inevitably will crack because people don't like silence. Like regular people are uncomfortable with silence and they try to fill it, right? They'll woo or they'll like, they'll start laughing. And then he's like, I haven't even said anything.
I like to wait a while, and then I'll start with my first lines. Usually, if humans come from monkeys, how come I never see no monkey with no big ass titties? Which is like such a dumb thing. It's not even a joke. It's just like a dumb thing I like to shout. And a guy at that show that we were at the other week comes up to me after my set, and he was like, hey man, I saw somebody do your joke on last Sunday.
I was in the green room when he was losing it over that.
I was like, dude, no one's stealing that joke. That was me. We were on the same show.
I love like a comedian's like how fired up a comedian gets over a joke that they think is even being stolen. Like I'm like, sweet. It's good that we have people looking out for this sort of thing. Like,
I'm glad he did it, but it was just so funny that he thought someone stole that.
Hilarious. That's so funny. I had the same thing where I didn't go right into the green room for a show. I told you this there, but for the sake of the podcast, I didn't go into the green room for the show. I just went straight on stage because I was running late. And then I did my set and then came into the green room after. And like somebody was like, yo, there's somebody on stage that was just telling you fucking jokes, like word for word. I'm like, did you think someone stole my entire act? My whole act. They even said my name. Like, I have a joke about my name at the beginning. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's like just how you're so fired up that like even the logical part of your brain is just like, no, I don't need that. Like,
Yeah, they're just looking to defend you, no matter what.
Which is like a thing that I always tell people too when they get like mean comments on, anybody who's trying to be like outward about themselves on social media with their opinions or whatever, or even just creating. I'm sure you've created like a comedy sketch and gotten like a shitty comment. But like, I'm always like, leave the comment, because the people who are like ride or die for you are going to get in there and start arguing like why that's not true,
Also, I'm a strong believer in like the wrestling school of logic, where if you're making someone feel something enough that they're leaving a comment, you've done your job.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah,
I remember I used to do a YouTube show that the first few episodes we put out all performed really, really well, got like, I think like over 1 million views each, and then a couple, like a couple 100,000 likes, or no, sorry, like 50,000 likes on the first few videos. And then we put one out, like the 6th or 7th one was just called The Drunken Mess, and we like just made a drunken mess, and it wasn't like a nice episode or anything. And rather than 50,000 likes and no dislikes, it had like 100,000 likes and like 150,000 dislikes. And I remember thinking, oh shit, we're ruined. We just pissed off our whole fan base and they're going to hate us from now on. And there's more dislikes than there even are likes. And then my buddy who I was doing the show with was like, dude, we just put out our best performing episode to date. And he's not wrong.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, that is true. Like, and the thing I always say too is like, if you look at the amount of views, you have 1 million people that viewed that video, and only 100,000 of that million decided to leave a like, and then only 50,000 out of that million decided to leave a comment, meaning that there was like 95% of the audience, I'm not good at math, but 95% of the audience was like, I like this video. And then they exited out of it like a normal person.
Yeah.
Like everyone else does.
You got to really feel strongly if you're going to make sure you're logged in and then type out a response. Like
with your little username. Yeah. You got to be having some type of day, good or bad, to be like dropping a comment, right?
Yeah.
You're either smiling ear to ear or you're pissed and you're in your mother's basement.
There's few places worse in the universe than the YouTube comments section.
It's fucking awful, dude.
That's for sure. Not on this show though. We love our viewers.
No, they're all great. I mean, I saw one mean comment that said, "You guys are fart faces," and I was like, "All right, I'll take that."
Yeah.
I know exactly what age range is watching or finding this show. Fart faces. It's like, damn, I don't know how to feel about that one.
Yeah, what even is a fart face,
Yeah, is that like just a face that always smells like farts? Like, how do you look like a fart?
Yeah, is it like a gaseous?
That's a pretty funny, you look like a fart. Yeah. I don't know why that's hilarious.
Because you can.
It's probably the weed I smoked.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, like just seeing you on stage you were rocking overalls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this dude would be friends with Evan.
Yeah. Oh, he's the best.
You guys just have like the exact same vibe.
We have a track together. He got me to rap once.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's
the way his brain,
dude.
His brain works in ways I can never fathom.
I watched him one time because I produced this album over the pandemic, Undeniably Dope. Because 2020 pandemic happened, I couldn't do stand-up comedy. That's over. So I was like, well, let me try making music because I'm just stuck here in my house and everyone thinks the world's gonna end. Yeah. And then over the course of 2 years, I had enough for an album because I just kept making it.
I had that.
He helped me a lot.
Yeah, I had the same thing with. I got into painting, and now I like kind of do that full time. I have a studio I go to every day, and that's like the number one thing I do all of a sudden.
That's amazing, man. I was gonna say the one thing that he was helping me with, like freestyling and like how important that was, because it kind of helps you write better. If you take a second to like allow yourself a moment to, okay, I don't need to rhyme every 2 seconds. Like I can just, space this out a little bit and tell a story instead of trying to make everything rhyme. And he taught me how to do that while freestyling. Like he taught it in rhyme, and I was like, dude, I can't even like this. I was like, I can't even focus on this.
So what kind of album is that? Are you rapping on it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Don't you find there's such like I'm excited to listen to it. I'm sure it's good, but I find like
I also did the audio engineering, and I am not an audio engineer. So
when you tell people you rap, there's like a certain like, I know.
I know I'm white, and it's like, whatever, Yeah. No, but it's like something. The reason why I did like the cover where it looks like someone's rolling weed on the actual album is because like it is that type of album where you just like put it on, start smoking, like start rolling some joints and like start getting lit, because pop in some headphones and just like lay back and try to listen for the references, because like the references to me are the whole reason like why I did the album. Is like they're such specific niche things that you would have to really, really understand that to be like, oh shit, I see, I got that, because that's like the type of music that I like listening to. Like thinkers. A wider audience is going to be like, what is this, like that, and then some hardcore person is like, oh, I caught the association to that.
That's what you're making it for.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I did, like it was exactly that. I'm like, I don't want to tell people that I'm a rapper now. I just felt this like inner burning obsession to like make music for myself.
For sure. And sometimes you just gotta like get a project out of you.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even want to do anything. I don't want to tour with this. I don't want to sign to a label. I just want to make it and put it out and then move back to comedy. Because now the clubs are open. Yeah, exactly. Just check it off. Did that. Sure.
That's honestly how I felt about stand-up when I got into it. I told myself my goal is to perform at a festival. And in like under 2 years, I did Zoo Fest and was like, all right, I did it. I actually, funny enough, I didn't do stand-up from like, I want to say November of last year until about June. I was out of the country for a while, and I was just like doing a bunch of different stuff. I had taken off like 7-8 months, and then I got Zoo Fest. And I told myself I was going to write, I had 20 minutes. So I was going to write a new 20, and I had like 3 weeks to write and get ready for a new 20. And I took a bunch of mushrooms and I filled a whole wall with Post-it notes, and I wrote like 60 plus. And then I performed it in 20-minute chunks, I think 3 or 4 times before Zoo Fest. And then I got it out and I like checked it off and felt finished.
That's amazing, man.
It was a nice little sprint.
And now that like you can do that, you're able to do that. Like that's what's so incredible about like setting a goal for yourself and then following through on it, is you're just like, oh, that's a skill that I now have. If I have to work for like a TV show and they're like, yeah, we need a script now, you're like, done. I've done this. I've been here before. I can do this exact same thing. Like write you the funniest shit.
Yeah. That's sort of, I find that's been the gift and the curse of my like career in a nutshell, is the creative ADD kind of.
Yeah, I feel
like I could never wake up and do the same thing for more than like a couple months at most. But I've been very fortunate to like do stand-up, and I've written movies and shows, and I've acted in things, and I've hosted things, and I used to do music. Like I've had a lot of these things that I always feel like if I had stuck to one, I'd be successful at. But like once I feel like I've got it relatively under control, I'm like, all right, what's next? What can I be bad at?
Hey everybody, Johnny here. Just want to take a quick second to thank our newest Patreon subscriber, CLB. I appreciate your support, and because you are subscribed to the show for just $1 a month, you're getting this episode before anyone else. If you want to be cool like CLB, head to patreon.com/TheJohnnyRogers and join in on the fun. All right, now back to the episode. Well, you know what? Like because my mind works the exact same way, where I'm like, if I just stick with this one thing, is that what's gonna be? But I have done that before, and I found myself like getting into a bad place mentally, where I was just like, I got past the having fun part, and now it was just being like hyper critical with myself over like every, oh, I missed that tag, or I missed that punchline, like it was the end of the world almost, right? But doing music, it like kind of freed my mind a little bit. I was like, oh, I can do stand up and just like have fun and like find the beats in the joke and like be more calm on stage. Like it just, the two just really helped each other. But I remember like this old show on Spike TV called Pros versus Joes.
Yeah.
And every time that they like profiled the Joe was always like, I like basketball, I like baseball, I like football, I play all these sports, but like I couldn't focus on any of them, so I didn't end up making it into like the pro league. That was always like their reason for like not making it. But then I look at like artists like Jamie Foxx, and I'm sure there's like countless other examples, but Jamie Foxx is like the best one for me because he's done like, was he on In Living Color?
No, I don't.
He did like a sketch show, didn't he? Do a sketch show? But anyway, he's an actor, he's a singer, he's a comedian. Like he did all of those things and did them successfully. Childish Gambino put out albums, does stand-up comedy, was on a major sitcom. Like
Will Smith.
Like there's countless examples of all of these different people. I mean, well, they're all black dudes, but all that's the thing. We're like, damn it, I just solved the reason why this is possible for them.
Honestly, my favorite multifaceted dude is Action Bronson.
Yeah.
Hosts a TV show, put out music. He's like a fitness influencer now. He's a chef. He has his own like food line and stuff. He's my favorite. He's the only guy in the world I'd trade places with.
See, and I always say that's a good example too of like, you like, who would you want to trade places with? Like whose position would you want to be in where they are in the next like 5 years? And then you can kind of, because they're a public personality, you can literally look up how they got to where they are and be like, all right, let me just try to follow similar steps and like work my way in that direction.
I wonder, because I find the route to quote unquote success, it evolves so quickly that like by the time you see someone do it, it's almost impossible to emulate them because now the path has changed. Yeah,
I guess it's not even necessarily like following the same path, but just realizing that there is even a path.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
To begin with, right? You're just like, oh, look, this person is able to do all of these three things. I can copy maybe some. You're like, oh, they have an assistant editor that helps them like edit their videos so they get more content out while they're able to do other stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can see, that's what I love about podcasts really too, is because a lot of these like very successful people are just like giving away free game constantly.
Yeah.
Like the amount of like Gary Vee is going to go down in history as like fucking, I don't know, like what's a good example? Like Socrates. Like I'm trying to think of like a great orator of his time who just spit free entrepreneurial game. Like if you want to open a business, just go spend all day on a Gary Vee page and write down the best tips that apply to you and then follow them and you will be moderately successful. Because like the other half of it is opportunity, right? Like you need to be in the right place at the right time.
And and like the actual ability and want to do it. Because I know so many who like got on the Gary Vee train and it's like, but you're not doing it, like you're just watching videos, you know, like
there's a difference between knowledge and action.
Yeah, he promotes that grind culture that like a lot of people don't realize they're not built for.
That is very true. It does take a certain type of person.
He definitely built a whole entire brand and following around just advice. It's crazy. It's
remarkable. But like he built that. He built that though off of like first creating a successful business and then making predictions about stuff on news shows, I'm pretty sure, to those predictions coming true. So he becomes like a bit of a, you know, like person who you're like, oh, this guy can like spot trends. Like James Altucher is another person who's a good example of that, who's like predicted like, I think Bitcoin's going to go up to blah 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 10 years before it even like was on anyone's radar, and then it did, and then you're like, oh shit, like everybody follow this guy now. Like people are just spouting ideas out there. I do love the people though, when through the Bitcoin freight, like that whole phase, they had like all these advice channels, and then as soon as it crashed, they just went silent. There's just nobody giving financial advice anymore.
And you know, I was one of the first 10,000 people to see Gangnam Style, so we all have our own wins.
That's so funny.
We all predict trends.
Tell me more about your painting though. Like you started that, you said, during the pandemic.
I started painting just as like a hobby after, because I always am doing a dozen different things, and everything I do is always very creative. So like there's a lot of brain operating throughout a day, and I have a hard time unwinding and relaxing. I can't like just watch TV or anything. So I started painting just to like keep my mind occupied as like a meditative type of thing. And I started like right before, a little bit before the pandemic. And then someone asked where they could buy one. So I was like, wow, I should like make a website, I guess. And it sort of just snowballed to the point where I think over the last 3 years, I've sold maybe like 60 pieces. And it's like, I'd say it's the thing that I've like developed the most like passion for since I was like a teenager playing basketball. Like I never had this feeling about producing content or comedy, even though that's what I've been like doing in like, you know, quote unquote flat for a decade. I really love painting. You get to really express yourself in a awesome way.
Do you have like a favorite?
A favorite painter?
No, a favorite like of yours where you finished it and you were like, damn, I did that?
Yeah, I did one about 8 months ago for a friend as a wedding gift that I did like an 11 foot by 6 foot, and it took me like a month.
Oh man.
But that was a fun project.
That's got to be a rewarding like payoff too. It's like stand up, but 10-month delay almost. Like they don't get to see it until way after it's done.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Do you have any like painter influences? Like anybody like?
I'm a huge Ralph Steadman fan, and recently I've been trying to like get into his style, which is like ink blot stuff. I don't know if you're familiar. He did Ralph Steadman does all the like gonzo shit, like the Hunter S. Thompson really like trippy kind of stuff.
Ralph Steadman.
But he works a lot with inks, which are like super difficult and messy. So I've been having fun with inks lately, and just he'll like make an ink blot, and then rather than have an idea to paint, he'll let it tell him what it is, and then start painting that. Yeah.
You know, I love like there's so many crossovers where I love art that starts like that. Like there's somebody else on TikTok who would people in the comments would like say an animal name. They'd be like, do a turtle, and they would write out the word turtle and then make a turtle from the word.
Cool.
Like they would draw based off of like whatever the word for the animal was. And I was like, that is like just next level challenge yourself type creativity, right? You're like, oh cool, I made this like little turtle just based off of that word there. And like I do the same thing too with stand-up sometimes. And I remember one time I think it was Kyle Lucy was telling me that like he was worried that he was too much like Jim Carrey, you know, on stage, where he's kind of like moving all over the place using his body for comedy, that he was like, I'm gonna leave the mic in the stand and not take it out for the entire set and do my whole act with my arms crossed like this. Just stand in place. And I was like, I love that, because you use it as a moment to like test yourself in like an otherwise position where you're like so focused on the material. Maybe you're like adding in this layer of difficulty to your art.
For sure. You're playing with your left hand.
Yeah. Do you try anything like that when you're painting? Like do you do that? I mean, like try to paint with your left hand, or like test yourself?
I love the notion of like testing yourself and making things harder than they need to be. I am so that type of person, but I'm also such an amateur when it comes to painting that like I don't need to give myself any
like I don't need to handicap myself any further here.
But there's a story that I love of Larry Bird on the Celtics played a whole game with his left hand and he scored 47
Oh my God.
just to like prove it. I love that shit.
That's so fucking good. Oh my God.
Oh man, you know the Jordan meme, the fuck them kids?
Yes.
You know the backstory? I was reading up on it recently. The story goes, Michael Jordan and Chris Paul were at a basketball camp together, and they made a bet that if Jordan took, I think it was like 10 or 20 shots, and if he missed 3 of them, then the whole camp would get Jordans. And there was like the kids there. And so if he missed 3 shots, the whole camp would get Jordans. And Michael Jordan shot 20 for 20 and no kids got shoes.
No.
Fuck them kids.
Fuck them kids. That's so fucking.
So
He's like, I'm not gonna fuck up my perfect record to give some kids some shoes.
I'm not gonna miss.
Oh my God. It would have been better if he had bought them all shoes anyways after considering how rich he
It
is.
kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like the doing the one thing. I find like you look at some of these like the people who are at the top of their thing, whatever it is, and who are like so hyper tunnel vision focused on one particular craft or skill or whatever, it kind of sounds like torturous. Like any great athlete is like kind of a sociopath.
Well, you look at Tom Brady, dude. Like Tom Brady, you said how many times he was going to retire?
Yeah,
And he's like, I can't.
Probably not like the healthiest, like the mentally healthiest people. I think greatness and mental health are not like, they're kind of opposite magnets that don't go well together.
Well, and then on top of that, usually when you've achieved like the heights of whatever your, passion is, it comes with like fame and notoriety. So it's like couple that mental illness with like, maybe being self-deprecating or whatever, couple that with people constantly in your face, like wanting things from you. So now you've added like distrust of people around you and like people taking photos of you. Like that mixture has got to be bad.
Yeah. Fame is such a messed up thing. It's so crazy how many people seek it. Jeez.
That cat is going nuts.
Yeah. It's crazy how many people like want that and don't realize it's such a burden.
It's a responsibility also at the same time. Like now you've brought in these people who just like enjoy hearing things from you and enjoy watching you, and like some of them are hardcore and will do whatever you say. And now you have almost like this weird responsibility to like monitor that, but also like continue to provide content. Otherwise you're no longer needed here. Like,
and it also is almost impossible to not like, I'm curious, like what you think about this in terms of as a content creator, how much is it just like making something you want to make? Like you said, your album, don't care to sign it or anything, like you just want to make it. I find that it's refreshing because it's so few and far between in this day and age where everything is for an audience and how's it going to perform and how did it do? Yeah. It's so tough to just make.
Yeah, I stopped like really caring about the numbers. Like I was obsessed with numbers for such a long time that it was like when it comes to my own stuff, I'm just like, it'll go up, it'll go down. It shouldn't even be a thing that like enters my mind. Like maybe if it gets crazy at a certain point, I can be like, oh, I could leverage this for like opportunity to like never have to work again, because that's the kind of possibility of where this could even go, right? For so many YouTubers. But it's like at the same time, I still want to enjoy what I'm doing. For sure. So that's why I'm like, this podcast, I'll do this podcast forever, even if every single video gets 25 views. Yeah. It's like, I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it to like chat with people like yourself. How often do you get a chance to like hang and talk to someone for an hour with no phone? Like nobody's checking their cell phone.
True.
It's weird.
It's something you get to do versus you even said about like how you felt about stand-up for a minute. Like whenever something becomes like, let's say this podcast blows up and gets tons of subscribers and viewers and stuff, that's awesome. but then you start having to do it, and then it starts becoming like a to-do, and you have to start considering what is working and what isn't, and what people want and what they don't, and it's less yours and it's more theirs. And it's like the tricky catch-22 to being a creative in this day and age, where like you just want to make for yourself, but it ends up becoming for an audience, and it's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah, because everybody wants people to like them, whether you say that or not. Like everybody has that inner desire. Like I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, so I have like a certain air where I understand that like people's opinions on the internet aren't their real opinions. Like they don't know who I am, for example. But like if you see everybody like, oh, I really love when you talk about this, you just like subconsciously are gonna just bring it up because you know that people like it, right? Like just what's gonna happen.
Even if it's not like a negative or positive comment, it's just like you put out 2 videos last week, and one was about fly fishing and one was about monster trucks, and the first one got 5 views and the second one got 100,000. You're gonna do more shit about monster trucks, 100%. And then 6 months from now you'll realize, damn, I really love fly fishing.
Yeah. You're like, damn, I really miss my fly fishing days, but I guess that has no value on the internet.
Yeah.
It's like, no, does it have value to yourself? Then do that. I remember this, like the first podcast I ever started, I did like 80 episodes, like not like a small amount. Like I had done a lot of episodes, and I was midway through editing one of the episodes and just so tired. And I was just to myself, I was like, this feels like work.
Yeah.
And I just closed my laptop and I never did that podcast again. I didn't even finish editing the episode. I just was like, it's done. Because I told myself the second that it feels like work and it becomes I have to and not I get to do that, it's over. I burn it to the ground. Like I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I feel you. And it's also like the things that you think are gonna work never work, and the things that you don't expect to work always do, or the ones that end up doing well.
Yeah, it's insane. The craziest example of my channel was like I had been doing all these like posting stand up, and like it would get like 200 views, whatever, and then like post like some news oriented type videos, like 200 views, whatever. And then I was listening to Wiz Khalifa on Joe Rogan, and I was like, oh, he says yeah, yup a lot. I'm gonna edit this whole episode into a montage of him just saying yeah, yup. 55,000 views. I was like, what the fuck? The worst. Yeah. But I was like, it worked. Like I know what works, I just don't want to do what works.
Yeah. Like I have shit that I'm so proud of that hundreds of people have seen, that I've spent thousands of dollars on, and hours and weeks like slaving away at editing and planning and producing and shit.
Yeah.
And I've also got like 1 billion views on videos of me eating bacon.
Like you're like, what?
That's the legacy, I guess.
I guess we got 15. I want to bring back because we did kind of tease it in the intro, but do you want to talk about the story? You know, the story. The movie. I feel like this is a chance to really like get it out so that we can review this even and make it into a bit that you tell on stage, because it's like it needs to become a joke on stage.
Okay, sure. I'll try not say too much, but
yeah, within your legal boundaries, I guess.
So 11 and I both worked on a movie for a drug dealer. Not your typical drug dealer. He wasn't like a dime bags in an Ultima kind of drug dealer. He was like, he had a fleet of drivers, and I think he was making like 50 to 100K a day just selling weed. Just weed. He had menus and stuff. It was wild. And he decided that the best way to like clean up some money is to make a movie, a full feature-length movie. So he hired me to be the screenwriter, and he would bring me down to Toronto to stay with him every other weekend. And he had this gorgeous penthouse apartment that was like overlooking the Blue Jay Stadium. He could watch games and concerts on his balcony. It was bonkers. And for some reason, he would always give me the main bedroom, which I thought was like very nice of him. He was always like a really generous, nice guy, but like just weird. And yeah, so his whole movie was about like he he's a drug dealer now, but he's like a lifelong scammer. He was all
Okay.
about scams. And he had some pretty funny scams that I still like laugh about today. Like he would do my favorite one that he had, I don't want to give away too many of his secrets, but this was my personal favorite. He would go to a town and go to a hotel between like noon and 3 p.m. So it's after checkout and it's before check-in when there's only people there cleaning rooms.
Uh-huh.
And you just walk in like you're staying there. No one's going to stop you if you just get in the elevator and go up. And he would wait until someone was in a room cleaning and they left their cart, like their cleaning cart in the hallway. And he would just like nab up 3 or 4 vacuum cleaners and bring them out the back door into his car and drive off with vacuum cleaners. And he said that you go to a used vacuum shop, any major chain hotel, every one of their vacuums are like $1,000 each.
Oh my God.
You'll get like 3-4 grand and hit another hotel.
Holy shit.
So this guy was a genius, clearly.
That's fucking real out of the box thinking.
So he hired me to write a movie about his scamming, and the process was insane. He would demand like overnight rewrites, and he would have his like cronies call and threaten me if it wasn't done in time. And at one point he said he got frustrated and he was like, "You write the first half, I'll write the second half." So it's not,
because that's gonna make sense.
And we put our halves together and like the characters' names aren't even the same. Nothing matches. Anyways, the whole thing was a mess. But I'll tell the like story I told you where one night we're up late working on the movie, and at a certain point everybody had left and it was just me and him, and we're shooting the shit. We're talking like bonding like friends. And I get the vibe he's a very paranoid guy, rightfully so, and he's holed up in his penthouse up there and he doesn't have many friends or anything. And he's really like enjoying this like friend time. But it was getting late, and at one point I go like, "All right, I'm gonna go to bed." And he fires back with, "You ever seen $1 million?" So I'm like, "No." So he's like, "Come with me." He brings me into his like little spare bedroom. And
that's the title for the episode, by the way. Have you ever seen $1 million?
He's got like, I doubt he lives. I'm going to preface this by saying I doubt he lives there anymore, and I doubt that money's there anymore.
He's in some prison somewhere.
Yeah, but he had these shoe boxes like lined up to the ceiling, and he takes one, he opens it, and he pulls out a stack of cash, like wrist to elbow, kind of. And he's like, "Pretty crazy, huh?" And we're just standing there like, it's like 2 a.m. and we're 2 grown adults in a bedroom, like nodding at $1 million. And so eventually I'm just like, "Yeah, all right, cool. I'm going to go to bed now." And so I go to bed. He stays up doing God knows what. And I'm in bed, and I've got like a, dumb guy brain where if I get an idea, I need to do it. Otherwise I'm not going to fall asleep. And I get this idea to splice together the Biggie song Big Papa with a Papa John's commercial so that it goes, "I love it when you call me Big Papa John's." And I'm lying in bed like trying to search for the right Papa John's commercial.
Yeah.
And like none of the audio's working. I'm trying different videos. I'm making it louder. Nothing's working for some reason. And a few minutes in, I hear from the other room him shout like, "What the fuck's going on?" And I realize that I'm still casting like from our meeting about the movie. My phone is casting to the TV. And I literally scoffed at this man's $1 million and then went to bed to watch Papa John's commercials, and he knows that. I think that was my last time visiting there.
Oh my
God. After that.
Just the fact that he's like, what is this guy's priorities? I mean, I need friends, but Jesus Christ.
Just watching Papa John's commercials.
So good, man. That's such
I can't fall asleep unless I get a few Papa John's commercials in.
What can I say? I love a good commercial.
That was a wild process. That's like 1/1000th of the whole story of that movie.
Oh my God.
It was a very much like a Tommy Wiseau kind of process.
Yeah.
It's really fun the whole way. I hope his thing gets made. I have no clue where it's at.
Yeah. I'm going to end this with one last final question that I ask all of my guests. If you could make a phone call to 15-year-old Tyler and give him a piece of advice based on what you know now, Also knowing that it's a separate universe and it won't affect your current timeline, so no investment tips. But if you could give a piece of advice, what would you say?
Ooh, like my concern is that anything I tell me would throw me off the path of getting where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very happy with where I'm at. So I would just tell me to keep trusting it. Because I think 15-year-old me, honestly, I would tell 15-year-old me to start earlier, actually. Because I was very much a school and a basketball team guy until like my early 20s, until I was like, oh no, I'm a creative and I make stuff, which I haven't stopped since. But I would probably tell myself to start earlier. But other than that, just trust it.
Start early and trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process. Listen to the antenna.
And I'm gonna tell people to go follow you on Instagram at Lemco, I guess is the easiest way to say that, as well as tlem.co. You got art on here, videos, writing. It's all your website. As always, all that shit is in the description below. Thanks so much for making the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll fire off this episode to you as soon as it's up.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, that's been the show. You know the thing. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye. See you, Tyler.
Peace, man.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.